What's up, guys? It's D Brown with Trackers, and today I'd like to welcome you to not just another episode of me working out, but we're going to be having a nice interview with someone that I've known since I was in high school. You know what I'm saying? Her name is Tiarra Bailey. Welcome, Tiarra Bailey, to the Trackheads TV interview. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So one thing about Tiarra Bailey is that, like I said, I've seen her development since high school. I've seen her run the 400, seen her run the 200, run away from the 800. But as of recently, as a newly, college graduate from Troy University, her success in 800 has like truly been amazing to see. Boasting PRs of 209 outdoors, 211 indoors, running the 457 outdoors, 58 indoors, like really, really fantastic times. So my first question would be, there's been such a long time I haven't really seen you in person. Like I said, we were on the same track team back when she was in middle school. How was it? How'd you get introduced to track, first of all? Like, what was that first, moment where you felt like, was it your parents that kind of got you into track? Was it you saying you wanted to run track? What got you into track in the first place?
No, my sister actually wanted to run track,
Mm-hmm.
but she quit like the first or second week, and I just kept doing it.
Hey, okay, so
I didn't really have a revelation of, oh, I really like this. I was just a kid, so I kept doing it because I was good at it.
okay, so it was just something that was like fun for you?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the first event that kind of drew your attention? Because, most kids, they want to have that drag race. They want to run the 100, the 200. But, by the time I saw you run in middle school, you were pretty much in the 400 realm of things. I think that was your biggest event that you were successful in at that time. What was the first event you really saw yourself be successful in once you started running track?
The 400. I started off in like the 100. So I feel like everybody just starts off in the 100, 200.
Right.
But my speed doesn't pick up quick enough for that type of race to be actually good in it. Mm-hmm. But so the older I got, the more successful I was in, like, because when you're younger, if you're just athletic, that'll carry you through being able to be good or whatever. But once you hit a certain age, it's like it separates like the people who are actually good at certain events and people who, So the 400 turned out to be a better event for me. And then eventually I migrated to the 800.
Right. Because, man, I remember you were one of the first people I saw that young. I've seen it with older guys, like intermediate level young men, but you're one of the first people I saw even split a 400 and made it look so effortless. I think this was around the time you were maybe in 7th or 8th grade. You were kind of teetering with running 60, 61, 59 in that realm. And I saw you go out in like 31. And I was like, okay, like usually when you see, I know you were, I was in your practices, so I can kind of tell that, okay, the way that she's practicing, you can kind of tell that 60 is going to be broken pretty soon. You went out in 31.
Yeah.
And then I saw you close in like 29 high to run 60 low. And I was like, what? Like, I've never seen that before in a female that was that young. I think you were like maybe 10, 11 years old. And the way that you ran it was so effortless. Did you realize that the 400 would be your event that early, or was it like, because I think that you have a lot of talent, or you had a lot of talent. I can identify it early that this girl is going to be something when she gets older. Was it something that went through your head, that young?
No. I just did the training. Coach Mike. Coach Mike was a good coach, so I just did the workouts that he gave us, and then I just ran. I really feel like stuff like that was really what made me migrate to the 800, like, because it was never my decision. Like, coaches made me do it.
Right.
So I just feel like they just saw that I was good at pacing, and just naturally.
Right.
Of course, things had to be tweaked and stuff, but yeah, eventually in the 400, I kind of died out in that too, because as you get older, they moving, like they run 49s and all that. Like the fastest ever, even with splits, fastest I ever split was like 54. So, that's not cutting it in.
Right.
That's not cutting it in college. So eventually the 800 still turned out to be a good mix of like speed and endurance.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay.
But no, I never really sat and thought when I was younger, like, oh yeah. I don't know. I just never thought about that stuff. It never crossed my mind. I just ran.
And that's the power of, having a good coach, right? They're able to kind of let you have fun within your event, and they do the thinking for you. So, that's really, really great. So let's transition, you're heading into high school. By this time I'm in college, so, I don't really see you guys on an everyday basis. But I hear, you could type up online, you could check certain things out, and I see that this girl moved to North Carolina. What in the world? She moved to North Carolina. She moved away from Georgia. She moved away from, her regular surroundings. How was that transition to North Carolina, finding a new coach? Now you're in high school. Now you have to deal with high school issues, high school things, girls, guys, like a whole new environment. How was that transition from middle school to high school, not only as an athlete, but as a person?
As far as a person, it wasn't that much of a transition other than not wanting to move, obviously, because I grew up in Georgia. So, of course, I didn't want to leave friends. Like, as soon as I'm about to go to high school, like, dang, that's the most important part of grade school. But, I mean, that part wasn't really that hard. The people up here are nice and stuff. So, and my grandparents always lived here. So, it wasn't like it was completely new. Mm-hmm. Now, track, Lord have mercy. Track is not the same here as it is in Georgia. Like, in Georgia, everybody know everybody because we all at the track all summer, all day. It's just taken way more serious. Obviously, we had a good coach, but here, I didn't have any of that. My school team was pretty good, pretty okay, just based off of having talented kids, though. So it wasn't really like the coach's program.
Right.
So, I mean, it was all right, but it was a typical, high school program. High school programs aren't usually as rigorous as
club,
as like AAU and club teams and stuff like that. So, but we were pretty good the first year. We was pretty good the second year too. But as far as training, I kind of tried to train by myself. Right. It didn't really work out. Like, I just became completely unmotivated, honestly, because I didn't know what to do at a track. And, track workouts are already hard enough. So just trying to wing it yourself is just not motivating. I had some people try to motivate me to like, oh, just stay the course, do this and that. But, when you're young-minded, you're not really interested in all that. So it kind of went downhill. I actually got recruited to college off of my middle school times. So I didn't PR in high school like at all. So I got recruited to Troy off of the 217 I ran in 8th grade when I was in Georgia. So honestly, high school was just maintaining or trying to maintain.
Right. And that's interesting because you don't usually hear that, but that's, you don't meet many 8th graders running 218 either. So Troy's definitely probably saw something in you that was untapped going into high school. But those 4 years in high school, you're trying to battle with, the love for track when you were in Georgia. You had a great coach. And then you transition to this space where the coaching isn't necessarily good. You're training by yourself. I know that struggle. It's very difficult to train by yourself in events like the 400 and 800. Very, very difficult. You have a great support system in your family, but where the coaches, where the other athletes to train with, they're not there. At what point, did you ever consider giving up running track? Did you ever consider, a lot of people, they have this vision at junior year, senior year, like, hey, I can't wait to go to college, run at my favorite school, run certain events. Like, was there a certain time where you're just like, forget track? 11th, 12th grade, forget it. I don't want to run in college. I want to be a regular student. I have different passions I want to pursue. Did that ever cross your mind during the struggles of high school?
Well, I did consider not running track. Just because my 400 time was still, like I told you, I didn't PR the whole time while I was in high school. So I'm just like, is there really even a point of going to college? Because like, if I'm not PRing in high school, but also I knew that I wasn't doing the work either. And I know what kind of program I had just came from. Honestly, I feel like if I didn't get recruited, I probably wouldn't have ran track. I probably just wouldn't have had the motivation to walk on. Or I probably just would have thought I couldn't do it. So my coaches, I don't know what they saw. They saw the old videos from middle school and stuff. So maybe they looked at those and were like, oh, maybe, I was still running like 218, 219 in high school. So I guess they saw that I maintained. I don't know. But I wasn't PRing. So yeah, I just took a chance and went. Troy, as you know, is a small D1. So I knew it wouldn't be as competitive, and I had looked at the people who were already on the team and stuff, because in college you have to basically compete to go to a track meet. So I was like, okay, I looked at the times and I'm like, okay, I could. Everybody was running about the fastest time in the program at that time was like 218. So I'm like, okay, they're right around where I was or where I can be anyway. So I'm not too stressed out, but of course, when you're younger, you look at the bigger schools and you're like, oh, I want to go to LSU, or I want to go here or there. So, of course, you're going into college thinking that that's how every school runs and stuff, but that's not true. Like, there's very few schools that's actually the case.
Right. Okay, so, you take that that Troy University path, right? You tell your folks, hey, I'm going to a school in Alabama. Did you go on the visit?
I did.
And how'd you like it?
I liked it. I mean, it was country. It was nothing there. Just a Walmart. Yep, that's pretty much it. Walmart and the university. But I didn't mind because I'm not really a fast-paced type person, so I liked it. And the campus is very beautiful. So yeah.
So it was something that your parents approved of. You were able to go down there and, tell me how that first, not just let's forget about the athlete portion, and as a student, as a person that's going away from home, going away from their support system for the first year. How was your first year as a student in general, or even the first week? Everyone likes to talk about that freedom that they have as a young adult, 17, 18, 19 years old. How was that first year for you at Troy University?
It was fun. It was fun, to say the least. Yeah, it was fun. You live and you learn.
Right. I hear that. Yeah, I hear that.
So, I mean, maybe a little too fun, but it was fun.
Right. It's that, it's that adjustment period. Everyone tries to find their footing and become that adult that they want to be. And independence is that key word, right? Freedom and independence.
I feel like being on a sports team actually helped, like, structure your time and structure, like, hold you accountable for certain things. Because I could see how if you didn't have to go to practice or you didn't have anywhere to be or 3 times a day, then you could just run wild. Like, that's just way too much free time to give 18. Well, I went when I was 17, so it's just way too much free time to give a 17-year-old with a whole bunch of other 17 to 22-year-olds.
That they have access to cars, have access to everything, right? It really just tests your background and what your parents taught you and all kinds of things like that. So even as a, that was as a student. So as an athlete, how was that first fall? Not even talking about the year. How was that first fall of training?
That was crazy. Like, dude, having to be up for 6 a.m. practice, trying to have fun, taking classes. For some reason, I let a regular advisor, because athletes have a athletic advisor. For some reason, I don't know how, but I went to a regular advisor and had them sign me up. And my crazy stuff was taking 7 classes my first fall semester. 7 in college. Like, that is ridiculous. I'm thinking it's like high school. Like in high school, we take all those
7
classes,
periods, right? Nothing. 7 periods.
Right. But when I got there, I tried to do it again, and it was just a hot mess. Like, keeping up with 7 classes, a social life, We got 6 a.m. practice. We got weights, and then you got class, and then you have study hall, and then you have to go to the cab. It's just a hot mess. So yeah, I struggle. I actually almost got kicked off.
Yeah,
because I missed 6 a.m. practice like 2 or 3 times. The only reason I feel like I didn't get kicked off is because we had we were the first new recruiting class for like the new coaches, so they were like trying to turn the program around. So at that time, even with like my PR from middle school, I was still like the fastest, or the one who had the fastest PR in the program for my event. So I just feel like they were like, dang, we just brought this girl all the way down here. We're trying to see what she can do, and she about to get kicked off already. I feel like if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have made it, because the same thing happened to one of the freshmen like 2 years or 3 years later, and she got kicked off. So I'm like, yeah, I feel like I got lucky.
Hey, but sometimes, you know, luck says a lot, you know. I'm sure they
timing.
saw you timing, and that's interesting, you know, the timing of things. Like you said, they recruited someone from North Carolina to Alabama to a program that had a complete switch around with all the coaches. Like it's almost like divine timing, you know what I mean? Because you could have went to any school in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, that whole Southeast area. And, you know, and of course, you probably didn't know at the time why you were a freshman, but you see how the story played out, and it ended up, you know, working out in your favor, right? Did they ever, because I know you're, you know, a 400, 800 meter runner. They saw your time in the 800, 218. They recruited from your middle school times. Did they make you run cross country?
He threatened to make me run cross country because, like I said, in high school, I was not motivated. Like sometimes I really hate to say it, but sometimes I didn't go to practice. Like I just didn't see the point, because if you know how unstructured high school teams can be, it's like, okay, we're about to go out there, and I'm not, especially when you come from a structured team, it's like, you know that these workouts are like,
trash,
we're wasting time. Yes, like I'm wasting time. So sometimes I would go, but I would like show up late, or I don't know, because I didn't have a last period, so I would go home and then I would have to come back, so I'd be late and stuff. I just didn't take it serious, basically. And over that time, I wasn't like doing endurance workouts. I wasn't doing long runs. I wasn't doing any of that, and I'm an 800 runner. So when I got to college, oh gosh, my base was terrible. Like I used to get kicked off the track, like, cause my coach, he's from New York, so and he came, and he used to what school did it was big, I don't know, he was coaching at a big school. He ran for an Oregon track club and all of that, so he's real, you know, so he's real, like actual, and he ran 800, so like he's not gonna take too much of that playing around, so it really was a big adjustment, like. And we really had to grow together, honestly, because I feel like if I came at any other time, it wouldn't have been as much time dedicated to growing me as a athlete and a person. So I feel like the time that I came in, I was able to adjust in a better way than if I would have came at any other time. So, or a bigger program, because, you know, a bigger program, they got better athletes. They're not worried about, you know, they're not focusing on the 218 girl, the 217 girl. They're worried about the 209 girl, the two coming in with 208, coming in with 209, you know.
Yeah, you're right. You know, I've heard stories about, you know, people coming out, you know, with similar times, and they go to those big schools walking on, and those coaches are cutthroat. They'll send you a letter of cease and desist, and you find yourself without a scholarship, trying to figure out how you're going to make it to spring semester. So it's good. It was great that they had a lot of patience, you know, and of course, you know, you had the talent, you know, you had the prerequisites to make that team, and to, you know, they saw the success that you could bring to it. So that always helps as well. So you're working hard, right, in the fall, trying to build up your base as an 800 meter runner, and you have your first meet. Usually the first meets for D1 schools are like either December or January, right, for indoor season. Did you see the immediate effects of the training in that first meet?
No, I ran like a 225.
Oh, damn.
So no, I didn't. You feel me? Like, no, I didn't. Yeah, no, I didn't. uh, honestly, college training is just a whole. Well, honestly, I feel like if I would have went through, I feel like this is what I always felt. If I stayed in Georgia, all through high school, it would have been a completely different story.
Yeah, I
but
agree.
Being that I came from the situation I came from, I didn't start from scratch, but I started from like where I left off in middle school, honestly. Probably not even there because I was in a better condition and shape. I don't know how I maintained, honestly. I don't know. But yeah, so I feel like from where I started off, I kind of started from scratch. Like when they got those times or saw those times, they might have thought, oh, maybe she's been working up to this point. But when I got there, they probably realized like when I sit down and talk to them, because you know they do individual meetings with the coach and stuff, and then when I tell him like what the story is, then it's like, oh, so we're starting from scratch, kind of, you know, like your times don't look like from scratch, but like it really is from scratch, like base wise and mentality wise and technique wise, kind of that too. It was really from scratch. So yeah. So other people who are consistent through high school, they might not have the same struggles I had. Like I had to start from scratch. But other people, they probably go in better equipped.
Right. And I think the great thing is that, you know, it seems like from your storyline, again, just seeing it from freshman year to senior year, it's almost like a blank slate was maybe the best thing for you. You know what I mean? Because imagine if you came from high school with that time of, let's say, 212 or 209, and then you go to a bigger school and the coaching wasn't the same as the coaching that got you there. Because we've seen that story before, right? When you see a phenom, you know, running 210 as a senior in high school, and then they never reach that time again because they go off to college and they get distracted, or the coaching isn't the same, or they fall off, or whatever the case is. So, you know, every story is unique. And, you know, so you start off with 225, right? Your first meet, you're probably gassed, you know, exhausted from running your first 800. As many runners know, when you run that first 800, you got that coughing sensation. You're hawking spit out. It's just horrible, right? Does it, you know, and you have that meeting with your coaches, you explain your situation. Do they express a level of like patience with you? Do they intensify your training? Like, you know, going into the next meet, like what point do you start to see the progression, you know, just in general from that 225? Like, did your time drop after that?
Yeah. Well, we kind of knew. We just didn't know where it would land, but we kind of knew it was going to be somewhere in the 220s. We just didn't know where. Because in high school, I actually stopped running the 800 because, I mean, you can't sham at practice and fake your way through an 800, but you can fake your way through a 400, depending on who you like racing against and stuff. But I could fake my way through a 400. So I stopped running the 800 and I ran like the 400 for the like last 2 years or so. So I actually hadn't ran the 800, honestly. I just knew, and they knew that I could. So I got recruited for the 800. But yeah, we pretty much knew that it wasn't going to be something phenomenal. We just wanted to see where I was. So after each meet, you go back and you pretty much have a conversation with your head coach and stuff. So from there, we just realized that base work was a really big thing for me. Like, and that's when he was like, you might need to run cross country. But me knowing myself, I'm telling him, I'm not a cross country runner. Like, I promise. Like, I could run the 200 before I could run cross country. Like, I'm not even trying to say it to get out of it, even though I'm trying to get out of it too. But like, I'm trying to tell you, like, I could run the 200 before I could run the 800. And eventually he realized that, which is why I never ran cross country. So yeah. But eventually in indoor freshman year, it got to 218 before I got injured. But yeah, it got down to 218. So we adjusted, we put more base work in. We did stuff like 8 times 600 meters and I know that stuff was crazy. It was. I'm trying to tell you, my freshman year training, I was dead every single practice, and that's why a lot of people don't make it too, because it's like, dang, like I don't even have. You see everybody else, like regular students, they're staying out all night and don't have to wake up and don't have to worry about doing this and that and hydrating, because you got 5-6 times 1,000 meters and stuff like that, right? So it's easy to be like, I just want to be like that or whatever, but I don't know. I had I hung around the track team mostly, so we were all doing it together, so that made it easier too. Like my roommates were on the track team and everything, so we were all suffering together, so that made it a lot easier. I remember when I first got assigned to roommates, they had put me with like regular students, and I was like, no, don't do that, because I was already missing. You see how I missed practice, 6 a.m. practice, and I had track roommates. Like imagine if I didn't have any track roommates, I would have been kicked off. But yeah, so yeah, it's a big adjustment, but eventually we got it down.
Okay, yeah, but I definitely understand, because you're talking about, you're trying to go to sleep, you have 6 a.m. practice, you probably trying to go to sleep around 10 or 11, trying to, and they come in turning up at 2 a.m. And they could be drinking, they could be smoking, because it's college, we know what it is, and
you don't want to be the lame one, like
you don't want to be the lame one, or they wake you up and it becomes a disruption, and it's a consistent thing, because you're talking about homecoming for the fall. You're talking about all these, turning ups, the parties.
And we always had practice before homecoming, like the day before. Like,
of course, he wants to get the last of your energy so that you fall asleep before you get a chance to do something crazy. So I definitely understand how it goes. All right, so you said you ran 2:18 that indoor season?
Yeah, conference.
Okay. So you make that transition 2:25 to 2:18. And you're right back to where your 8th grade PR is, right? How do you feel once you run 2:18? Is it like, thank God, like my talent didn't leave me? Was it the hard work is paying off? Did that give you motivation going into the outdoor season?
Not really, because my 8th grade PR was actually 2:17. So in my mind, I'm still thinking like, dang, my middle school self could beat me. Like, I'm in college and my middle school self could dust me right now. Like, that's crazy. And so no, not really. And then I got injured. Like I fractured my ankle from bad technique, running flat-footed or heel striking.
Yeah, I remember that about you too.
Yeah, like I've always been a heel striker. Like that has always been an issue. But like, consistent heel striking, it gave me a small fracture in my ankle. So when I actually made it to outdoor, I was limping around the track most of the time. From the first meet to my first year was just a hot mess.
It was a learning experience.
So, yes, like it was a hot mess. Like my coaches were really patient. I guess they really kind of had to be, because the program was being turned around. So they probably went into it knowing they were going to have to do a lot of work. So I guess I just, like I said, came at the right time. But yeah, outdoor, my time started with a 2:20 and it just kept going back until I was back at a 2:25. Until I just didn't, they told me to go home. Like, they didn't even make me go to outdoor conference, because they're just like, it's no point. Like, you're literally limping around the track. Even at parent relays, like, I don't know, I guess coaches, it's a thing where coaches trying to see, like, are you really injured, or are you trying to get out of stuff, So I went to, they still took me to Penn. Like, they asked me, they were like, do you think you can run just the 4x4, just one hard effort one time around the track? And I was like, no. I was just honest, because I'm like, bro, I can't. Like, I don't want y'all to fly me all the way to Philadelphia just for me to run whatever I can. And so yeah, they still, I guess they were just asking because they had already bought my ticket. So I was like, no. And they're like, well, we bought your ticket, so pack your bags. And I'm like, oh gosh. So needless to say, we got cursed out. The first leg, her knee was hurting, and then I was the second leg, and I was literally limping. Like, I did a run out before the race, and I was limping. And like, you know how your team is sitting by the finish line, everybody's like, oh, yeah, because it was a hot mess. we ended up running like a 4:03. So
Wow. Yeah. And
and our
I saw
PR
the
is
times that
yes.
on your thing, and for
I'm
anything
trying
for
to tell
college
you.
is mm-mm.
And with the same people, we ended up running like with no, we had like a couple, like I think 2 new girls when we ran, but eventually we ran 3:37. So you
Mm-hmm.
see the difference,
Right, the
like
big difference.
4:03 to, and we had some of the same people. So it's like, yeah, we got cursed out, but
Oh
and it was
my.
on TV, so
You save it for later.
yeah,
But it happens, injuries happen and you regroup. That like you said, that freshman year, I did not realize it was so turbulent, to go from 225 to 218, you starting to feel that momentum shift. And then from 218 back to 225 because of your injuries. It's crazy. Who's that? That's your little dog?
yes,
Hey.
oh
All
my
right.
god,
So,
okay,
you go into your sophomore year, right? You go home, you go home. Do you train while you're at home for the summer? Or do you do?
uh, no, you talking about freshman year?
Yeah, the summer after your freshman year, yes.
Yeah, no. I was pretty much just resting so my ankle could heal. So I didn't really. I trained maybe or went running. Did light jogging for preconditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe the month before I left back to school, but that was just so I don't completely die when I get back.
All
So
right.
yeah,
Okay.
but I
And
still did.
are you still kind of worked out a bit?
Yeah. No, I'm saying I still died.
Oh, so it didn't even matter. But no, that's great because that's a big lesson for a lot of college, people. That summer that you have off, you're off a lot earlier than you would be if you were in grade school still. I think they sometimes if they let you off in like early May or maybe
Yeah.
late April, depending on if you make the conference, like meets past conference. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of time to train. You have May, June, July, and then you're back August. That's 3 months to gain fitness or recover from injury. So it's great that you took advantage of that. So now we're heading into sophomore year, right? How are the vibes going into your fall? Now you're no longer a rookie, so to speak, right? You know what it takes to kind of be successful. You know the coaches. Um, did anything change from your freshman year to your sophomore year in terms of the fall season?
I feel like, well, I just knew what to expect. I was mentally stronger. I had stronger base or more base. The mentality started to shift with like the people and the coaches to like, okay, you had freshman year to, I don't know, kind of grow up or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
get it together. But, sophomore year, kind of expecting more, of course, because it's still a contract. Like,
Right.
they're paying you to be an athlete. So it's like you still have to deliver. So it's only so much graciousness they can extend.
Right.
So from those are pretty much the only things that like changed.
Okay. How were the workouts? Were the workouts more intense heading into the fall? Because now, like you said, their expectations were more, right? They knew that the workouts that you did your freshman year led to that 225 and then eventually 218. Was
Yeah.
the conversations that you were having with your coaches now like, hey, now we can start progressing maybe to 215? Did you have any goals set in that fall, for your indoor season?
Yeah, they didn't really change. The goals were pretty much the same because I didn't really hit the ones from freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
So my coach always pretty much knew what I could do or what I was capable of. Because at the time, our conference, the top girls were like running 212, 211. If you could run 212, 213, 211, you could make it to a conference final.
Right.
So that's pretty much what college teams are pretty much shooting for like conference time. So,
Right.
and then they think about the rest later. But yeah, that was always the goal because they knew I could, and of course they want points. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So, first indoor meet of your sophomore year, how did that go? Or how did your indoor season go your sophomore year in general?
I didn't make finals. I ran 2:14 though, so
Okay.
they weren't too upset about that. They were like, okay, well, that's 4 seconds faster than what you ran last year, so we can't really be too mad about that. I think I didn't make it by like 2 spots. So, like I said, if you run 2:11, 2:12, 2:13, maybe you might get in there. But 2:14, you pretty much know, like, okay, great PR, but I'm not making it in with that. You know, I'm not making it in. But yeah, I wasn't too mad though. I was happy with the PR. They were too.
So 2:14, that is a big jump. You know, I know you were excited. A lot of people were happy for you, and it was great to beat your middle school PR.
Right.
Right. It showed that. Right. It showed that, you know, you're better than your previous self, which I'm sure you were really happy about. All right. And that was indoor season, right? Okay. So now transitioning to outdoor season. What did outdoor season have in store for you your sophomore year?
Outdoor season is always a lot more fun than indoor season.
Of course.
But time-wise, I didn't improve that much. I think I ran 2:13.
Okay. So still 2:13 is still it's still a pretty good PR. And during this time, are you still running the 400 at all?
Sometime, maybe once or twice, but really just the 4x4.
Okay. Really just the 4x4. Okay. So you run the 2:13, and did you do that at outdoor conference?
Yeah.
Okay. And after outdoor conference, that's when your season ended?
Yeah. If you don't make it to regionals, then yeah. And we didn't make it to regionals till my senior year, so.
Okay. All right, cool. So now we transition to your junior year, right? Junior year, you know, you have the summer. You're still working on your base. You're still building it up, right?
Yeah.
And then
those are probably the hardest times, like over Christmas break and stuff, like actually maintaining or keeping up or actually doing the workouts, because you know you're doing it on your own. Your coach is sending it to you and you're doing it, and your family is watching a movie and you're like, dang, I just want to sit here. It's cold outside, like I'm really trying to go run nothing. Some days you do fall victim to that, and the other days you're like, okay, I don't want to, like, they're going to be able to tell if I go back and I don't work out, so let me get up.
Was there like a certain level? So there's a certain level of accountability you have to have, you know.
It's a lot of accountability you have to have, like
for the breaks and things like that. Did you? Yeah. You've always struck me as someone who never really put that much pressure on themselves. Or am I off? You know, at least the middle school version of you that I remember. You know.
Yeah. No, I didn't. No, that wasn't always a good thing, but no, I didn't.
How do you think not putting pressure on yourself helps you, you know, those first 2 years of college, you know, your freshman and sophomore year? Because from what I remember, while other people were stressed out about running the 400 or running the 800, you may have not wanted to run the 800 at that time, but I never really saw you just stress out, pulling your hair out because you're nervous about a 400 or nervous and pulling your hair out. It's just like, if I get first, I get first. If I get second, I get second. If I get third, I get third. Just, you knew that, you know, you always tried your best, but I never really saw you freak out. Like, if I don't get first place, if I don't break 60, I'm going to die, you know? How did that help you in college? And that's consistent now, you know, because that's what I remember from middle school.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess in college, I guess through my whole career, like, it just helps to not beat yourself down too bad. I always had expectations, but I just knew that it was a pot. Track is so up and down sometimes that you would drive yourself crazy sometimes if you get so hung up on like your performance or your time. So I don't know. I just always kept my confidence in my workouts. Like, if I know I did the work, then I know I can do it. Whether I do it at that race or not, then I know I can, because I did the work. So it helped. Stay level-headed, stay motivated.
Okay, so let's look towards your junior and senior years. At which point in your junior and senior year you felt like, I'm back? you know, the Tiarra Bailey that I knew from middle school, who, you know, knew that she was a beast. I'm back. At what point, or did you ever feel that way junior or senior year? At what point did you feel like, I'm excited, like this is what I've been waiting for, this is the race I've been waiting for? When was that point?
Yeah, that was probably junior year. After I ran the 213, I'm like, okay, like I'm in a pretty good area, good range. Like, yeah, I'm right there. You know, as a 800 runner, you always want to get under 210, break 210. Just like for 400, well, when you're younger, you want to break 60, and then if you're really advanced, you want to break 50. But I never reached that point yet. But yeah, so I was like, okay, well, I can get under 210. Like, I have all this time. I dropped 4 seconds between one season, or 5 seconds between one season. I could do it again. I could try to do it again. So I did. So yeah, I was pretty excited about junior year. Sophomore year, I didn't really know what to expect because freshman year was such a hot mess. But junior year, I was like, okay, we're going in the right direction.
Okay. And let's fast forward to your senior year, right? Senior year is when all of a sudden the big time started dropping, at least in my opinion, from what I saw. This is when indoor season, you bust a 211, right? And your senior year, you bust a 209. What do you think led to those successful performances your senior year?
Actually, junior year, the outdoor conference meet was where I was like, okay. Because that's when I actually ran 210. So, yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I wanted to get under 2. I never really feel when I'm running fast.
Right.
I usually just go, which is not good either. It was a bad habit where I would just know the abilities of my opponents.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, well, if I'm off her shoulder, I have to be going such and such pace. Or my coach was saying at certain areas, and of course we do like pacing workouts and stuff. So I feel like I'm going this pace, or I feel like we're going this pace or whatever. But of course you're not running with a watch on or looking at a watch while you're running. That'll slow you down.
Right.
But so like in that race, one of my biggest regrets would probably be being happy about being in the front. Like I said, my base was not well for such a long time. So when we hit like the last 100, that's usually when I get gassed. And you know, like in 800, that's usually when everybody
when you kick it up.
Either, you feel me? Like either people take off or people get left. Usually start to drop back. Right. But I don't know. We hit like made it to like the last 75, and I'm like, oh, I feel straight. Like I'm actually picking it up and whatnot. So I didn't even realize that I could have got first place. I didn't even realize I really could have picked it up a lot more than I did. But I guess I was just so focused on I'm doing well that I kind of settled for where I was. Right. So I kind of wish I would have pushed or been more focused on running as fast as I could instead of doing well for that race. Because I feel like I could have run like at least a 209 or something, because I ran 210, but I wasn't really that tired. And the girl who beat me, I didn't even realize she was in front of me. I was just so okay with doing okay. Right. That she ran like 210 something, and I ran like 210.8. So yeah, I should have focused a lot more. But yeah, moving into the next year, I just knew never to do that again.
So you learn from your mistake.
Yeah.
You know, you learn from that mistake. And that's interesting because I think a lot of times as we get better per year and per track meet and per season, it's kind of like the expectations of yourself have to go up as well. Because like you said, you know, you could have been in shape to maybe go even 208. Because like you said, the base, you know, I ran the 800. Base is very, very important. And there's a lot of moves that you can make in that last 120 to win the race.
Exactly.
And with your base improving, it's almost like maybe you didn't even know where your ceiling was at and where you could push because you didn't want to gas out.
Right.
But, you know, with that kind of mistake, you definitely learn for the next year, because as we know, you had a very successful, at least to my knowledge, a very successful senior year, running 211 and 209. Can we say that the success of your senior year was attributed to like the realization of your base, like that your base finally started to kind of help you along?
Yeah, I feel like the real success was just me being more consistent, like 212 and 211 and splitting 210 on like 4x8 or stuff like that just became a consistent thing. So when you do it more consistently instead of just it being your PR, your confidence kind of just goes up, because it's like, okay, I can do this. Like this is like not a standard, but like I can expect to run this. Like, so you don't get as comfortable when you're on a certain pace or the time says a certain thing, because it's like, okay, well, that's what you're supposed to do or whatever. So yeah. I actually remember the race was at UF when I
University
ran
of Florida, the Florida relay meet. Yep, I definitely remember that.
Yeah, it was at Florida Relays, and it was crazy because I was just trying to go with the crowd. Like that's where, when you're a small D1, all your meets are usually, like, majority of your meets are usually with like smaller D1s or smaller schools in general. We raced a lot of HBCUs. Troy is surrounded by a lot of HBCUs, so we racing like people within like the same talent range as us. But when we go, like, when we get invited to bigger meets, we're there with like Oregon and obviously UF and all those type of schools. So I was just trying to keep up, honestly, and it worked out.
That's what's up. Yeah, when I saw that the results from that Florida relay meet, I was like, she is moving. But that's usually what happens, when it's almost like you raise your level of competitiveness with who you're running against. I think especially for like schools, like smaller schools, it's almost like a privilege to run at those big meets, because that's the only time you can really rise to the occasion. There's rare times in which you can run in front of 30,000 people or 20,000 people and just feel their energy while you run, right? So 209, 211. Did you run any 400s that year?
I don't remember. I don't think I did. My open 400 time didn't really get a chance to like decrease. I was always just focused on the 4x4 because we had a really good 4x4. So that's pretty much where all that focus went to. We had good open 400 runners. Like we had sophomores running 53, and we had 54. 54 was like the standard open time, so they didn't really need to like push me into that direction. And certain meets you can only enter a certain amount. Well, indoor meets you can only enter a certain amount of athletes in an open event. So of course they're not going to put me over one of them. So yeah, I didn't really do open 400s that often. I might have did one outdoor just to give me a break from the 800, but I really don't recall running it before. And if I did, I remember I did run one in 400s. I don't know if it was my senior year or my junior year, but yeah, it was a 57. I didn't even use blocks. It was at Auburn. No, really, like I'm looking like Parker and Rec, like literally on your mark. I'm standing up. Everybody's in blocks, and I just ran. Yeah, but I was in one of the like heat 10, so I still won. But
so, I mean, I'm not sure if you agree with me. I think you still have a lot left on the table when it comes to this track and field thing.
I know. I just it's so hard.
It is. I think you have a whole lot left on the table, and I'm sure you've been told that 1,000 times, because even as I listen, I kind of knew I had a loose idea of your story. I didn't know how difficult it was in high school, but I did see your progression from your first year at college to your last year at college, and when you really start to go under 210 as an 800-meter runner with your kind of 400-meter speed, because I know you're way faster than a 57. I know you're way faster than a 57 potential-wise, and that I feel like your progression, and you could probably agree with me or disagree. I think your progression strictly came from your base development as a college athlete,
Right.
and because I think you would have ran 57 probably your freshman or sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, I did. I ran it in 8th grade. That
Oh
dang
my
8th grade, man.
gosh. So it's, it's almost crazy just to think of, where you could, take that, if you continue training. So, even transitioning from college, we just went through college. Where are your thoughts now on where you want to take it? I know COVID-19 has been a big factor, right? I'm not sure how it's affected your training, but how have you been dealing with this crisis and your ability to train with a coach or your ability to train with other athletes? Like, how has that been going? Or are you even interested in training?
I contacted Coach Mike and asked him would he train me if I moved back down there. But obviously I'm grown now, so I have to have a job to move down there. I can't just, go down there. But I was like, if I find a job, would you be able to train me? But right now, I'm not really interested in training unless it's a coach that I trust. Like with Coach Mike, I was only in Coach Mike's program for 2 years, and when I first came in, I was running when I was on Impact first, we were on
of course, right.
And I ran like a 2:35, and then with Coach Mike, within 2 years, I ran 2:18. So, needless to say, I trust him. So, and he's really dedicated to like tailoring workouts to the athlete's ability. All this stuff, but for the interview purposes. But so I just trust him. So if I was going to train, it would have to be with a coach I trusted. My college coach tried to get me to continue because, like I said, he ran with the Oregon Track Club. So he talked to one of the coaches up in Jersey or Philly, and he was like, "Oh, I have this athlete, but I don't know. At the time, I just really didn't want to. I can be honest. Like, I just really didn't want to. And then I tried to do it with him because I just feel like post-collegiate is a whole different ball game. Like,
yes, it is.
Like, this is not to waste time. Like, you're here to do something or don't do it at all. So I didn't want to go up to wherever, or Jersey, a new environment. I'm not an up north person. A new team, veterans, pro athletes, and all of this. And I just felt like that would have just been so overwhelming for me. So I tried to do the whole working out with him. But of course, I'm graduated at this point. So he has to keep his team in order. And then it was just extra for him to be trying to, do things for me. And I was still going in between if I really wanted to give it my all and stuff. So I just call it quits because I was like, okay, I don't want to waste your time because you're spending free time at this point trying to help me. So I just been chilling until I make up my mind because I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Yeah, I definitely understand that transition from college to, as you see with other athletes, that transition from college to professional or attempt to be professional is no joke,
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't even matter if you have the talent, but if you can't, like you said, organize your life, you're now an adult, now there's priorities, you have to get a job or have a source of income, because there's other ways of making income. And then as well as training with the same kind of flexibility that you had as a college athlete, so it's not hard, it's not difficult. I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's certainly, it's going to take some level of communication, and it's great that you are able to reach back out to Coach Mike, and hopefully he can be of service to get you to where you want to go. Because, like I said, listening to your story, there's so much left on the table, so much left on the table that it would be a shame if you decided to call it quits.
I know it would, but I don't want to force anything either, but I just know that talent-wise, I could, if I really wanted to. It's just like the circumstances. They would have to line up. Right. And plus, I'm getting older, so it's like, dang. Yeah. I want to be an old hag trying to run.
Oh, no. It's you know, it's a balancing act. And I think, especially with women, the older you get, especially in events that require endurance, the more developed you become, you know, the more stronger that you become. Sometimes age isn't necessarily a bad thing, you know, you become more right. Event, especially for the 800. It's such, you know, so many tactics. There's so many ways in which you can play it. And from what I understand, you never really ran the 1500 in college, did you?
No, I didn't. He threatened me with that too.
Right. So, and as your base develops, I'm just gonna say, okay. as your base develops, you never know. I don't know many 1500 meter runners that have your potential of the 400 as well, you know. So I'm just saying, it don't gotta be now. Maybe it can be down the line, but we're gonna see. Not me, but maybe you'll see, explore what comes next.
This has been my life, my whole track career. Like the race, the distance just keeps getting higher and higher. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's how it goes.
That's
how it goes.
I'm like, dang, I wish I could just be a 100 runner.
Yeah. Yep. Look, I do not blame you. So, you know, we're starting to reach the end of this interview, and we have plenty of female 800 meter runners in high school that have been in your position, right? They're talented. They're in high school. They may be trying to transition into college. They're trying to figure out the event of the 800. You know, what do you tell them? You know, maybe they're a talented 1500 meter runner. Maybe they're a talented 400 meter runner. In your case, talented 400 meter runner. What do you explain? What do you tell them to make that transition to the 800 meter race that much easier?
Endurance, definitely, but ultimately it's a mindset thing. Of course, you're like, oh, I have a whole nother lap, but when you really break it down, it's a lot of pacing that goes into it. And like I said, endurance, it'll carry you through a good deal of your race, and then the rest is really just mental. A lot of people, let me just talk about me. Right. For the longest, I just knew that a certain point was my crashing point. Like I knew the 600 is around getting 600. Hard. Yep. Yeah, the 600 is getting real. The 675 is starting to dwindle down. The 725, yeah, I'm just trying to make it home. So a lot of times you just have to get that out of your head, especially if you're doing the work. You don't anticipate dying. Right. Like, don't anticipate slowing down. Just check into how your body feels. And track in general, like check what you're thinking in your mind before you race, because that has a huge outcome of how your race goes. You have to be talking to yourself the right way in your head for your race to go well, especially when you have 2 laps to be talking to yourself. Like I know the sprints is pretty much just like go run, you know, but two laps, you have a lot of time to think. Like it does go fast, but you have a lot of time to say stuff to yourself in your head, and that does affect your race. So for a long time, my coach had to work on that with me. So it's a lot of things that go into the 800. So it's not as bad as you think.
Right.
You can do
it. Right. Hey, there we go. And when I speak to other 800 meter runners, you know, the one thing they always talk about are the hard workouts that they have to go through in order to achieve that level of like quality performance. And when I spoke to one of my friends when he was doing his workouts, one of the workouts that he said was his hardest, but it led to him performing and running a 151 or 150 in the 800 meters. He even split it like 55-55. It was pretty crazy to see. His hardest workout, he said, was he would have to run it was a split 800, a 600, 90 seconds rest, and then a 200 2 times. The 600 was in 118, then he had to finish up in sub 30.
Yeah.
And he had to do that twice. After he finished the first one, he threw up his breakfast and he hid under a tree and then came back and killed the other one and ran like 117 through the 600. And
Right.
that was probably one of the most impressive performances I saw because, like you said, it didn't only test his physical, you know, like you said, that 600, I ran the 800 too. That 600, two things happen. Either your mind gets into it or it gets lost, or you realize like, damn, I didn't practice hard enough to
Right.
be able to finish. You know,
Exactly.
what was that workout, that harder workout for you that made you become more confident to finish an 800 or to just to run a quality 800 as you became more consistent?
I would definitely have to say broken 800s because, yeah, like you're like, okay, I can do it once, but once you're dead tired after that first one, and you think there's no way I can get back up and do the same thing, and then you end up getting up and doing it faster. It's like,
Yeah.
so just because I think I can do it doesn't mean it's not there. I just
Yeah.
might have to work a little harder to do it, but you can still do it. So those type of workouts, I feel like that's pretty much what they're designed for. I don't really feel like the physical, having you get up and do it a second time is really for the physical aspect, because I don't know. I don't know the science behind that type of stuff, but
Right.
I don't feel like it's for physical purposes as much as mental purposes.
Right.
Because, yeah, it really helps you see, well, dang, just because I feel like I'm gassed or I think I'm gassed doesn't mean that I can't do it or I can't perform a certain way. So,
Right. You have to kind
yeah.
of, it's almost like tricking yourself, right?
Right.
Right. It's 800, such a mental event. But
It is.
like I said, you know, great knowledge, Tiarra, great interview. I think we got a lot of great information, not just for the regular college student trying to do better in their event, but also for the high schoolers and middle schoolers who maybe took a hiatus, you know, from middle school to college, and maybe they want to, you know, jump back into track after 1 or 2 or 3 years and still,
Right.
you know, can still be successful. So I want to thank you on a quality interview. It was definitely great talking to you and talking about your trials and tribulations and success, you know, becoming what I consider an elite 800-meter runner for college. And I wish you continued success. Definitely be safe heading into COVID, you know, these new times that's upon us. And I wish you future success with your event, you know. I hope to see you, you know, this is a special year. I'm just going to say it's a special year. So I think if there's a time to take some risk, a calculated risk, I think this year is definitely the year. Like I said, you have the talent for it. So, um, so yeah, great interview. And I will be speaking to you hopefully at a later date with some
Okay.
positive news. All right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, guys. So this is D Brown with Trackheads. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Fantastic interview with Tiarra Bailey. First, where can they follow you on Instagram if they want to ask you any questions?
Uh, 3 underscores.
Uh-oh. Three
Not right.
underscores.
Bailey, but 4 Ys.
But 4 Ys. Okay, so three
Yeah.
underscores Bailey with 3 Ys on the end. Okay, I'll put that in the description below. So if you have any questions for her as an upcoming 800-meter runner, 400-meter runner, or just to connect with a fantastic track and field athlete, definitely, you know, check out check out the description of the YouTube page and check her out on Instagram. Give her a follow. All right. So without further ado, thanks for watching, guys. It's D Brown with Trackheads. Peace.